Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever in the world you are. Welcome to this program. Tonight, we'd like to talk about the first item is an announcement by Nelson Chamisa that if he was to win these elections, he's going to create a post of leader of the opposition for the loser is main rival in this power struggle, Mnangagwa, leader of the opposition in parliament. This will be an official recognition, and the constitution will no doubt will be changed to suit. Welcome to you, Benjamin. And what do you think of this story?
Hi, thank you once again. Good evening, good morning to our viewers, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us. Well, this is a cat and mouse game between the two. One is always looking at shaming the other, or, just trying to trigger the other's emotion. So I don't really see. Yes, they may offer each other, but none will be willing to take up the position for the sake of one's pride, I guess.
I think actually this position was offered by Mnangagwa soon after the 2018 elections, and it was reported then that it was with advice from the British, particularly the British ambassador in Zimbabwe at the time. She was keen to get Mnangagwa embraced as a Democrat and so forth. And that was seen as, if you could get him in, you get international recognition, blah, 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 blah. And the Zimbabwe, the Zanu PF government was actually trying to implement it. But Chamisa scaffolded the whole thing. He didn't want it. I think it was also because Mnangagwa, I think, had hesitated for quite a long time, and he had created, I think by that time, the Pollard. And one of the conditions, of course, of joining Pollard was that whoever was joining Pollard had to publicly admit that Mnangagwa had won the election, and that the elections were free, fair, and credible, which would have meant that our friend Chamisa would do a complete flip-flop, because ever since the result of those 2018 elections, he had claimed that the elections had been rigged. So that would have been an about 10 that maybe he was not prepared to do. But I think this time he is saying, oh, I'll do this, so that if he loses, and I think probably this time Zanu PF will create that position, and Chamisa will take it and pretend that it's not quite the same thing as Pollard. So I think that is the strategy. Because if he loses, do you think Chamisa will refuse to accept this position?
I think Chamisa does not, whether win or lose, Chamisa will not accept Mnangagwa as president of the Republic of Zimbabwe. I don't think it's always just going to be a case of he rigged, he did this, and he is not going to ever say this is free and fair. It's impossible. So for him to then now turn back and to take up a post, I think because of pride and what it actually just defeats the purpose of what he is saying if he is to accept. Because by him accepting, the same reason why he refused Pollard is the same reason he would refuse this, because it would show that, he has considered the defeat. And at the end of the day, that won't sit well with the image that he has created for he himself. How can he for 5 years say, Mnangagwa is not duly elected, and then on the 6th year, because now he wants to join the whole party, he says it's okay? I don't think so.
Well, I beg to differ with you, Benjamin. Remember, even after 2018, his MPs took up their positions. The opposition has always known that these elections are being rigged. And of course, he has got to lie to them that he's participating and they have stopped Zanu PF from rigging. And when he has failed to deliver, he always flips back and says, oh, the elections were rigged. But at the end of the day, he'll always accept the few seats that he gets. In this particular case, actually, if that position was to be created, which I think it will be created, it will come with it with shadow minister positions, which would mean a few of his own lieutenants would get shadow ministry positions and the pegs that goes with them. And remember, they are participating in these elections out of greed. So all Mnangagwa is doing is making it even more attractive for the opposition to participate in future elections, regardless of how flawed the process gets. Because these shadow ministers will get the pegs, maybe not quite the same E-class Mercedes-Benz limousine that the Zanu PF ruling party ministers get, but they will get maybe a lesser one, but much better than what the MPs will be getting in terms from their 60,000 US car allowance. I think this will happen. I can see wanting to do this. In fact, he was going to do it actually in 2018.
Well, the reason why I am disagreeing to say he will not. Well, with these guys, you never know, but I think he will not, because the reason why his MPs joined in the whole parliament is because he himself, they agreed as a party to say, we lost the parliamentary, the MP elections. They agreed, but they said they never lost the presidential. They said we did very well, and they were very much adamant to say we lost the parliamentarian, but we never lost the presidency. That was what he said. So for him now to go and turn and say he will be part of this whole free seat for the losing, I don't think he will. But as far as everything else goes, I think he just thinks, okay, that their part is free game. Let's see how it goes. The rigging, or I think they think the main rigging is at at the top, the main race, let's say, the presidency.
Well, I think you may well be right there, but in my case, I will still argue that in this particular case, the presidential race, as much as Chamisa is contesting this one, his MPs and the rest of the opposition know that the rural areas are no-go area for the opposition. And so therefore then the opposition did not expect to win those MP positions. And when you're looking at the presidential one, the majority of the voters come from the rural areas. And as we were discussing only the other day, if Zanu PF is frog marching these rural voters to go and vote for him, and as we will be discussing later on about some of the change, the things that Tim Pachedu has done to the voters' roll, it's clear that they are participating in these elections, knowing fully well that Zanu PF is rigging them, and the level of rigging. Yes, he and his team would have been counting on, well, maybe the odd, just good luck that will win the presidency. But the truth of the matter is, I don't think they genuinely ever believed they could win them. You cannot possibly win with the kind of level of rigging that we are talking about here. So, I think at the end of the day, they are participating for the sake of the gravy train seats that are available. And in this particular case, Chamisa himself would have joined Pollard after 2018 if Mnangagwa had agreed that the Pollard should be limited to him and Mnangagwa, Chamisa and Mnangagwa. What Chamisa objected to is that it was he had invited all these other losers of the presidential race, putting him on par with them. And I think that was one of the biggest objections on that one. But if he was to create this position, leader of the opposition, and have a seat in parliament officially, and with all the pegs that goes with it, Chamisa this time I think will accept it. He will even turn around and say it was me who suggested it. And that's why he is making that suggestion. But we'll see. We'll see. Time will tell.
Oh yes, I know that's true. It's always time. I wouldn't put it past them, because I mean it's just how I think these guys are driven. I think it's not really for the good of the land, but more of myself. What do I stand to gain? But then obviously there's also his pride to lose, so which kind of makes it tricky for him. So probably he'll have sleepless nights about it.
Yeah, just wanted to comment on a comment on one of the medias to this story, where somebody was commenting that people were. Let me read the actual full comment. It's basically saying people should not be too critical of Chamisa. That he's trying his best, and he was wishing that the country would have now free, fair, and credible elections. Sorry, let me just find the comment. I won't read the name because it's unfortunate that the guy is not here. The quotation is, lots of unnecessary venom towards Chamisa in the comments. But I think those proposals are awesome. Let's have free and violent-free elections. What do you think? Was the criticism of Chamisa and venom unnecessary?
I don't see.
Awesome, and let's have free and fair elections.
Oh, of course, we would like to say let's have free and fair elections, but let's be realistic at the same time. We can see what is unfolding in our country. It's evident for everybody, unless you just choose not to. The environment is not even conducive for an election. They it's a circus. People are being displaced. People are being frog marched. There's a lot of evidence that we have been trying to give to the viewers on a daily basis to say, this is what is happening in our country right now. you know what is happening in the rural areas for some of the people that do not know exactly what is happening in the rural areas. There is no longer that freedom. The rural folk don't even have the right anymore. So how can we talk of free and fair? This is how deep the rot has gotten into, right? So I don't believe we are going to have free and fair elections. And to some extent we have to talk about Chamisa, because he's the one that is pushing on to say let's go for elections, let's vote in numbers, let's do Operation Mango, let's all this year whole shenanigan. Or I don't like to call them strategies, because I don't think it's very strategic at all. I just think it's just clear foolishness. It doesn't really make any sense to continue when there's tons of evidence that we are also presenting every day to educate the ordinary person, you and I, to say this is what is happening. And he consistently says let's go, let's go, let's go. But I'm sure he also sees exactly what is happening. He knows it's evident for everybody. And then sometimes you end up thinking, what is driving him if not greed too?
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think the guy who made that comment, he got the wrong end of the stick. It's naive to think Chamisa is interested in free, fair, and credible elections. If Chamisa was interested in free, fair, and credible elections, he had the golden opportunity to implement the democratic reforms during the 2008 to 2013 GNU. Why didn't he? We can't keep on going round and round in circles and pretending that the Chamisa is interested in free, fair, and credible elections, when in reality he is not. Since the GNU, Chamisa and company have completely given up on reforms. They are participating in these elections knowing fully well that they're being rigged for the purpose of um, selfish greed. It's as simple as that. I think this is what I find so disappointing, Ben, about people pretending that they don't understand that the GNU was primarily about implementing the democratic reforms. And secondly, that the responsibility for failing to implement even one token reform lies with the opposition. We can't keep on going over the same ground. Uh, if somebody doesn't understand that, really, it beggars belief. Even now with the benefit of hindsight, how can you fail to understand it? So that is a problem, and I think those who are trying to pretend otherwise are missing the point. But what we're talking about here is this stubbornness of the opposition to participate in these elections regardless is is the next big issue that we want to talk about. Team Pachedu. Would you like to introduce Team Pachedu? Who are Team Pachedu? While I get one of their latest comments. Are you still there, Ben?
Hello.
Yeah. Do you want to start introducing Team Pachedu? Who is Team
So,
Pachedu?
so basically, Team Pachedu is it's a non-governmental organization that was formed, you know, in the early 2018. But I would like to believe they were there from back, but they became more active from just after during the 2018 era. So they are there to basically, you know they're not politically affiliated to either side, but they would rather say they are there to watch for fairness, basically, and to try and bring out the straight and narrow in fairness. Like, they stand for fairness. That's exactly what they say. So that's how I can just summarize it. They're basically for transparency, responsibility, and accountability from both sides. That is from ZEC, Zanu PF itself, and within Triple C.
Okay. Team Pachedu is they are really specialists, if you want, in data analysis, because they've been able to look at the voters roll and interpret it and find things that the ordinary person would not be able to find. So they are really computer experts. I think that's where I'll put it. And this their latest one, this one here, they have since found that there are 2,525 voters who claim to reside at a house number 401 Usheokunze in Churu constituency. The majority are recently transferred to that address. In 2018, there were only 6 voters at that address. This is a voters' roll that we were talking about the other day that ZEC released on the 10th of July. It's in a format which, like we said on that occasion, that only somebody who is computer literate, an expert in their own field, would be able to still glean information, transfer some of the PDF files to Excel, for instance, and be able to then do an analysis on it, a quick scan. For them to have found 2,525 voters who claim to reside at this address. What do you think, Ben?
When when I first saw it, what I thought probably maybe this is a farm, and there's a compound. there's there's a lot of activity going on. But then I looked at the number, it's so shameful, and it's so I don't know how it comes about, but it's sad, really. It's really sad. I mean, you're 1980 or before that day, 1980 going backwards, people went and and died trying to get this one man, one vote. And they put Zanu PF as custodian of that day. Now these are the same blokes that are going behind the scenes and going to take away. I mean, if there were 6 people, if you were to say 2,525, minus 6 people, the rest are non-existent. What are we doing? You're taking us way back beyond Smith. I don't think Smith never used to do that. You're doing this to your own people. This is wrong. I personally think, if Zek is going to get to such an extent of doing something so shameful, and now I honestly believe this is why they had given them a PDF, trying to hide some of these indiscrepancies. And the worst part is, even if we see it now, the day of come election, they will have something that is completely different to the one that they gave you. And there's no way you can backtrack it to say, is it the same? Same? Are we sharing the same data? It's impossible, and it is very shameful. Then coming back, I like we were talking about Chamisa. I think honestly, if and just yesterday we were also talking about Tendai Biti when he says the voters' roll is a sham, is criminal. And for sure it is criminal. But the question now is, we have all seen this is what is happening. We have all seen this is what is happening, right? What are we going to do about it?
Yeah, well, I think the interesting thing about this Team Pachedu, I mean, is they're really thorough, and in this particular case, to have picked so many people. What could have possibly happened here is, of course, a situation where the guy who wants to contest in this particular constituency decided that, yes, he needs to beef up his own vote, his own supporters. And so, use this particular address, and everybody who was registering was using the same address. And remember, this voters' roll that was given to the opposition or the contestants in this election would have been, I'm sure, cleaned up. And these are the sort of mistakes that probably they overlooked, they didn't realize. Because I agree with what you were saying. The voters' roll that is going to be used on the day of the election is not necessarily this same one. Because this particular one, this voters' roll, is probably a whole constituency voters' roll. So it doesn't give you the polling station voters' roll because it's going to be voting by polling station. And so if you've got a constituency voters' roll, and on the day you will have a constituency, a polling station voters' roll, it will be very difficult, and those copies are not given away. So no one can really do an analysis to be able to say, is this the same thing that we're still looking at? But this is, again, even with that a constituents voters roll, Tim Pachedu has been able to come up with some of these things. I mean, some of the other items that they came up with is equally shocking. I don't know whether you want to read one of the other ones, Ben, that they've come up with.
Oh, okay. Just give me a moment. I just look it up.
Okay, well, Ben is looking up the next page. I think it is important to also point out in this case here that this issue, when it comes to voting, it is quite normal for people to register to vote and be allowed to vote using the voter registration slip. And if these people here, the 2,500, for instance, had not been put in the voters' roll, and I think they probably were put in the voters' roll by mistake, or this is the one that the cleaning up forgot to clean it up properly. But in practice, there would be people like that. If you're going to use a voter registration slip on the day of voting, no one would know that 2,525 people were registered, supposedly staying at the same house. That last election had only 6 voters. No one would know that. But that is where the advantage of using voter registration slips comes in. Because when you turn up at the polling station and you have got your voter registration slip and it says you are entitled to vote at that polling station, the ZEC official cannot refuse you the right to vote. And interestingly enough, the regime has never recorded the number of people who have voted using voter registration slips. And they have never been audited. I don't know whether you're ready now, Ben.
Yes. So, amongst other things that Team Pachedu have actually discovered is that, they have discovered that, the voters' roll, the 2000 and this voters' roll that we are using, the 2023 voters' roll, has got people that actually died before 2018. So, which means people that died from 2018, going backwards, they are in the voters' roll. And this is one of many discrepancies. And I think this plot of the dead voting has always been there. I still remember a year where we the whole voters roll was wiped clean and everybody had to re-register and start afresh. But then, funny enough, when I went and checked my name, the ones that were dead, my kin were in there. I said, how does this work? We're supposed to have started afresh. So which means their names should have been deleted from the voters roll. How did they end up being there? So this plot again has come up, and Team Pachedu managed to find that out. And then there's the issue of age. So now, since we have incorporated some of the dead there that probably have died, I mean, some are actually, since 1969, that was the or 1916, sorry, that was when they were actually born, and they are inside the register, and they are voting in this coming election. I don't know how, if it's even possible, but I don't think it's possible that they are still alive. But they will be inside. They're inside the voters' roll, and ZEC has changed. So to make it make sense, ZEC has altered the names and the ages of these people, so that they look younger, and give them between ages of between 1996 and 1980. So that's the new age group that they fall in. These dead that are from long back. So there's a lot of manipulation of ages, and for example, this is ZEC has changed the age of many new voters who now appear younger when they are old or dead. For instance, multiple official records show that Chimwango was born in 1916, but in 2003, in the 2003 voters roll, his year of birth is 1996 and 1980. I think 80 years younger. That'll be 80 years younger. So these are some of the manipulations that have been found.
I think it is important to note there that these are not really mistakes or oversight on the part of the ZEC officials. These are deliberate. These are deliberate. These people would have been using somebody's ID, and then you give them a new date of birth so that they could use that ID. This is why it is important that this voters' roll should have been properly verified. Why it is that in 43 years since our independence, we still have failed to produce a verified voters' roll. It really beggars belief. It's not because it's technically difficult, but it's more because there is no political will to do it. It is as simple as that. These people do not want to do it. And I think it comes back to what you were talking about, Ben, of why is the opposition keeping on participating in a process that is so blatantly flawed? It doesn't make any sense at all. It doesn't make any sense at all. But that is when we come back to what David Coulthard was saying in his book. That in 2013, he was commenting, we knew that the process was flawed. It was so flawed and so illegal. The only rational, logical thing to do was to withdraw. But we could not withdraw because we did not trust our friends in the other party, MDCT. He was in MDC Alliance, MDC Ngube. We could not trust them to withdraw too. We knew if they participated, they would go on to win the few seats in the elections. So the motive is very clear. It's no longer a question of we do not see that these elections are flawed. We can see it, but we'll still participate because we are after the few gravy train seats that are on offer. And that brings us back to the beginning of our story, of this discussion, where Chamisa is now proposing that the opposition should be given the official position of leader of the opposition and all the perks that goes with it. They know Zanu PF is rigging these elections, and Chamisa knows that Zanu PF will never give up the position of the presidency. And they will always have the majority of the MPs and senators. But they also know that Zanu PF is desperate for the sake of legitimacy to give the opposition some of these seats. And all he's trying to do now is make sure that he himself, as the leader of the opposition, is well looked after. If he gets the official position of leader of the opposition, he will also be entitled to the car in some of the ministerial packs. And some of his lieutenants will also be entitled to shadow minister positions, and hopefully that will also come with perks, maybe not equivalent to the minister of government, or maybe equivalent to the deputy minister position. That is what this whole farce is all about. And Mnangagwa, I can tell you, I come back to you again, Ben. I honestly think that he will grant them that position. He will create that official position. I know you doubted it, but I think he will.
It's not that I doubt. I think, for the sake of he himself, Chamisa, and he wants to remain relevant, and probably will be scared to get swallowed. But my main point is, with all this evidence that Team Pachedu is getting for us, so that we, the ordinary people, see what is going on and some of the things that we are not being told. Because, the opposition is not talking about the flaws that are within the process. They are talking about already giving each other positions, declaring winnings on such an illegal, process that even you and I don't have a vote. 6 people, and then you change 6 people to 2,500. That is just amazing. It's just amazing. Surely one cannot just do that and just get away with it scot-free. It's illegal. Somebody has to question this. But then my problem, I don't want to act as if I'm going to be a prophet of doom or something. But I would like to give it as a warning. The drive, that Chamisa and company have for power and to go forward with this election, no matter how much evidence there is to show that this process is not even worth even talking about, is the same. I honestly think they're driven by greed. And if they were to actually get into these positions that we are trying to get them in, they will be 10, if not 100-fold harder to get them out. They will be our biggest enemies once they get into power, because they are hungry for power, despite knowing that whatever they are doing with this whole election is so flawed and it's not even worth it. That the most reforms are the way that to go about this yet, at least to get democracy at the end of the day, such that we can be able to have independent institutions. Like ZEC should be independent, so that nobody tomorrow can manipulate the system. If we continue and we leave it like that and continue just following them, this will be our nightmare. I hope I won't say, but I told you so. But let's be very careful.
I believe that at the present moment, the opposition is our nightmare. They are participating in these elections, as David Coulthard clearly says in that in that quoted article that we just been referring to just now. MDC are participating in these elections to give, knowing fully well that doing so will give legitimacy to Zanu PF. And this is the cycle we are caught up with. You participate, you give Zanu PF legitimacy. And once they are legitimate, They do whatever they like. And earlier on, yesterday, we were talking about how some people think that maybe if the elections are rigged again, they'll go on the streets and protest and demand regime change. That is ill-advised, to say the least, because you do not elect a government, give it legitimacy, and then expect to remove it from office through street protests. Street protests are meant to just protest something that you're not happy with. They're not meant for regime change. And I emphasize that point. And at the present moment, if Chamisa gets his wish and this position of official position of the leader of the opposition is created, and he gets all the perks that goes with it, that will make it even more attractive for the opposition to keep participating in these flawed elections. We are sinking deeper and deeper into it. Zanu PF needs these people to keep on participating and give the regime legitimacy. That is the cycle we are caught up in. And he has already been very generous, creating this pollard body purely to reward those people participating in the presidential race. And at the end of the day, if they can stand up and say, oh, the elections were free, fair, and credible, they are rewarded with a seat in Pollard. And they get a free car, $40,000 worth, and all the other perks that goes with it. Opposition have given up on reforms and free, fair, and credible elections. This is the number one message I would like to send tonight. All those who think that the opposition are participating in these elections genuinely seeking political change are naive, to say the very least. Opposition are not participating in these elections thinking they'll win them. They know Zanu PF is rigging them. They also know that by participating, they're giving the regime legitimacy. But most important of all, they know that Zanu PF is giving away a number of gravy train seats. There is also the payment from the Political Party Finance Act, which they'll get a cutoff depending on what percentage of the vote they get. Anything above 5%, you get a cut. And for some of the smaller opposition parties out there who may fail to get even 1% of the vote of the winning of the votes cast in the presidential race, as long as they swear that the elections were free, fair, and credible, they will join the Pollard gravy train, and they'll get the Pollard free space. And Chamisa is now enhancing his own position as leader of the opposition by promising to create the position of leader of the opposition party in parliament and have a parliamentary seat reserved for that, for supposedly from Mnangagwa. But I think he's sending a clear message that he is ready for it, because Mnangagwa offered that to him after the 2018, and he rejected it. But that had more political connotations because of the Pollard thing. This time, I think he's ready for it. And if that was to happen, we really are getting a political system that is deeply entrenched, where the opposition will participate in these flawed elections no matter what, because of the perks that are on offer. And I think the people of Zimbabwe must need to be aware of this, and we must sound our objections to this gravy train mentality in the opposition, because this is what is digging, getting us deeper and deeper into this hell on earth, a hole that we find ourselves in. Thanks very much, Bench. Would you like to give your closing remarks?
Thank you very much. I think you summarized it perfectly. I cannot take or add anything. I think it's just up to the listener to decide what they want to do going forward. I think Team Pachedu is presenting the evidence. We are also trying to show, those that would have missed the opportunity to see it, and we bring it to them. It's up to the individual to digest and see how to operate going forward. Yeah, that's what I gotta say. And I'd like to also say thank you for joining us, to our viewers, and God bless.